Hi there. Welcome to the Self-Sabotage Trap, 4 secrets to accomplishing more with soul-loving boundaries. We're about to dive into 4 ways that you can start to really make changes right now with a new perspective, a new way to kind of be within yourself. And I want you to open up your mind to consider that what I'm about to teach you are some of these things take a little time as we could practice them to start to reap rewards. And some of the things we're going to do today might make you feel completely different when you're done. They might make you feel, especially the activation today, might make you feel tomorrow when you're going through your life like, wow, I feel a little different in my life. I feel a little different how I'm showing up. I'm thinking a little differently. And so I really do believe this is going to be really helpful for you. But I also want to ask you to open up your mind to allowing some different perspectives to come in and really open up to the possibility that even though it might seem different than the way you normally think, that it could be really helpful for you to start adopting some of these things in your thought process, in your being, and as a practice. So here we go. Let's go ahead and share the screen and get started. And I'm excited to share it all with you. So here we go. So I can share screen here. So we are here at the self-sabotage trap, which you know, and I wanted to let you know that we're going to show you, just to sum it all up, we're going to go ahead and show you how you can make an ultimate shift from struggling to stick with your goals, feeling maybe stretched too thin because of overgiving and overdoing and over accommodating others and being disempowered in your relationships, and to feeling even a renewed sense of energy, a renewed sense of personal power, and more clarity by changing one thing. And the one thing that I'm talking about is your relationship with yourself. And I really do believe that's going to be the basis and the foundation for everything else that you want, including how deep you want to go in your relationships and how much you want to heal all the areas of your life and how you want to set up and set boundaries with other people. Really matters what your relationship with yourself is. And just for coming to class, you have access to, I will show you at the end of the slides, you will have access to the Manifest It Like You Mean It guide. Now, why would I include something about manifestation in a self-sabotage class? Well, I'm doing that because literally manifesting is the opposite energy, the opposite physical, emotional, mental experience than self-sabotage is. Self-sabotage is stuck, constriction, fear, and manifestation is literally the opposite of that. It changes your energy field. And this is scripting. I don't know if you've ever done that before, but it's a really cool exercise. There's some really great questions in there to get you to open up to what you really want in terms of scripting your future as if it's now. So go ahead, and if you see anything here and you have an aha moment and you feel like, oh, I really loved that, go ahead and take a screenshot, because I'd love it if you share it in your stories, and just make sure you tag me and I will reshare it. So this is my story right now that I want to share with you briefly. This is taking me back to about 2014. And there's a reason why I'm sharing this with you. First of all, around that time is I was out for a run. And at that point of time, when I was running, I lost all the sensation in my leg. I had one leg that I could balance on, but I couldn't feel it. It was really heavy. I had to drag it a mile to get home. It was the scariest thing that had ever happened to me. And I soon got home and went ahead and got to a doctor, and they sure enough told me that did testing and blah, blah, blah. And they told me that I had Lyme disease and a bunch of other stuff that was causing a lot of scary symptoms. I had low blood pressure from the Lyme, and so I would pass out sometimes out of nowhere. I had so many things going on. The lethargy was crazy. If you've never been through something like that, it's very hard to describe to people. But this is my family. And so these are my boys. They're now teenagers. It's my husband and my dogs. At this time, I was very ill, and I had been ill a very short time. And my husband's the supreme caretaker. So soon after that, if you see my in-laws in the corner there, that beautiful blonde on the couch holding my kids was diagnosed with lung cancer, stage 3. And simultaneously, my father-in-law's diabetes skyrocketed and he started losing his feet. It was, to say a time of crisis would be an understatement. My husband was in crisis. He was a sole caretaker for my mother-in-law in particular and his father. He's an only child. He was the one who took her to every chemo session and brought her home and cleaned up and cooked and took care of her while his wife was in bed at home and needed a lot of the same things. It was really madness. It was crazy time. And why I'm sharing all this with you is because that when I was going through this. A friend of mine gifted me a session, a Reiki healing, and I had never had one before. And she gave me this session and she said, "You have to take this. You need help. You need something more. You need to go talk to somebody." And so she was a psychic Reiki healer. And I went, and I took the appointment, and the woman told me that I was an empath. And it was my issue was is that I was literally absorbing and holding everybody's pain. And my body was already preparing for all of the stuff that was happening in my life. And that I'm a psychic empath. I mean, that I'm a physical empath. And so I do feel a lot in my body. When I tell you, when you feel something and you hear something, you know that it's true for you, you're kind of like, boom, like your whole nervous system just accepts it and you feel it in a solid sort of way. Well, I did feel this in a solid sort of way. I kind of knew this is actually a big deal and this is my new normal. Like everything shifted from that moment. So I called it an aha moment. That was an aha moment. That was a spark that woke me the heck up. And, I really had to shift how I was doing everything. And so I really believe for you as well that you are just one aha moment away from showing up to do the work that catapults you into this life that you desire. And that is not to be underestimated. That even if, you have a spark today, that could be something that really catapults you forward. Now, my professional experience, just so you know you're in good hands, is I've been a mental health therapist for 20 years. I've been an energy medicine practitioner 9 years. As soon as I found out that I was an empath and that I was as sick as I was, I attended a 3-year energy medicine school. I trained in multiple modalities, and I am the owner of Sage and Stone Energy Therapy, which I opened up after all that, and that's been about 8 years. And I'm a teacher. I teach Reiki for the last 7, and I also do healing classes for women, including the Empath Boundary Bootcamp. So turn off all your distractions. I'm just going to say it. I know that you are multitasking on some level right now, probably. Many of us are, and I do it too. I'm doing the dishes and I'm listening and I'm doing all these things because we're so programmed that that's how we have to like kind of function. But in order to have that aha moment energetically, I need you to be open to everything I'm saying. And in order to be open to everything I'm saying, you really need to be present for it. And so I'm going to ask that you try to turn off your distractions and try to be as present for this as possible, because there are some concepts here that might be a little bit deep, and I want you to be able to absorb them. They're going to make a big difference if you can. So I'm curious about what brings you here today. Are you just a curious person? Are you new to this? Right? That's what I'm getting at. You get in your own way sometimes, and you're aware boundaries are not your strong suit, but you're curious what it would look like to even fix this. Like maybe you never even considered. I've met a lot of people that are like, I never even realized this was something I could fix, right? So, or are you motivated? Like exactly the work needs to get done, or you are open to the work that needs to get done. You're aware of this shift. You're ready for it. You want to get the results that you already know are possible, and you need some help to get there. Or are you someone who has been doing this for a while? You're frustrated, but you are still determined. You are still showing up. You still clicked yes to come and to listen to this. And so you are still showing up. You're not giving up. Frustrated that you're still dealing with it. You want things like people pleasing and self-sabotage to be a thing of the past, and you are trying not to be discouraged. So let me know in the comments if you're a 1, 2, or a 3, and I'll be able to take a look after and go through that, and we can talk about that and see where you guys are at and where you're at on that spectrum. And honestly, just to say, no matter what brings you here, I support you and you've come to the right place. It doesn't matter what stage you're at in order for you to get something out of today. Okay? It doesn't matter. You are about to open up your mind to what's possible, and that's what matters. And you're going to learn how this kind of new ways of thinking can potentially even change things for you. Because remember, you are just one aha moment away from showing up to do the work that catapults you into the life you desire. I can't say enough. I believe in magical moments, and sometimes they are hard and they're painful. Sometimes they're joyful, but they are moments that shift us. And at the core of this master class is a message of hope. Healing your boundaries heals your every aspect of your life, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Nobody teaches you that. We didn't learn that in school. And it's a shame because it really is something that is really foundational to our happiness. And healing self-sabotage also means healing your relationship with yourself. So you understand that as the concept. Your boundaries with yourself are the foundation of every other boundary you will literally ever hold. Everything that you want has to start here. So basically, I obviously think this work is ridiculously valuable. So here we go, step by step. This is what it's going to look like today. We are going to be talking about number one, I went through the four secrets, okay? Four secrets. Why your goals might be the problem is the first one. The second one is the hidden identity trap that might be keeping you stuck. The next one is the key to healing your unconscious program that won't let you change because that programming is not wanting you to change. That step four that we're going to do is, or that secret four is how to realign your energy before, during, and after. And our last step together is just going to be how I can help if we would like to work together or if you'd like further help from me in any way. So Q&A, any questions that you have or anything like that. All right, so the first one I'm going to share with you that I want to bring forward is the problem. And the problem is that you might be very well setting goals that are not aligned with your purpose, okay? And so if you're setting goals that are not aligned with your purpose, you are in a place where you might be getting very stuck and you don't understand why you're getting stuck because as you're doing it, it feels like you're supposed to do this. This is the have to goal, the I should goal. And so it feels like, I'm supposed to do this, and yet it's failing and I'm sabotaging and it feels terrible in the end. And that's why soulful goals are the solution. So, what is self-sabotage? Let's just make sure that we know that we're on the same page when I talk about self-sabotage, that you know it's an unconscious pattern. So, I'm not talking about you specifically consciously sabotaging things. It's a pattern of blocking your own success, happiness, or well-being without clear boundaries. Self-sabotage shows up as procrastination, playing small, abandoning your goals, many times to avoid guilt or conflict, but that is self-sabotage. In fact, do you know that studies indicate that approximately 88% of individuals who set New Year's resolutions abandon them in the first 2 weeks? I mean, that's not long. Self-sabotage happens for two reasons, okay? And I want you to understand these two reasons. And this also might be a new concept for you. And I hope it is because that excites me, because it's a way in to deeper work. So, first of all, self-sabotage happens for two reasons, okay? Either you have a lack of boundaries with yourself that is causing the self-sabotage. That's it, lack of boundaries with yourself. Or you have intuitive intelligence and you need to pay attention to that. And it's actually important because everybody's telling you you got to fight self-sabotage. You need to do this to manipulate and do that to fix it. And sometimes none of those things are going to work because it's intuitive intelligence. So that lack of boundaries, we have a lack of boundaries with ourselves when we lack self-discipline that can only come from being present, right? So we are not totally present when we're avoiding being lost, being busy, or lost in being busy, partaking in addictions, and all the other tactics that you have in place to keep you from being present, right? Everything that goes on in your life that's taking your attention, all the distractions and everything, they're all about, your avoidance of your emotions, your avoidance of discomfort. And so that in itself is one of the massive, most, foundational thing to self-sabotage. But the second is intuitive intelligence. Now, many times our intuitive intelligence is resisting the goals you set or the way you approach those goals. So maybe the goal is not the problem, but maybe the way you're approaching it is. But when you come from a place of scarcity, self-rejection, criticism, disgust, when you're rejecting yourself in the process of trying to go for a goal in order to motivate yourself for that goal, you are going to likely self-sabotage eventually. Therefore, if you find yourself self-sabotaging your goals, it might be good to ask yourself, maybe there's a good reason for this. Maybe my whole body, my whole self, my whole, being is trying to tell me this doesn't work for you. This is not good for you. We don't want to do it, right? So I'm going to ask yourself, can you think of a time when you didn't follow through on a goal for yourself, right? Can you think of a time when you didn't follow through on a goal and tell me, was it steeped in dissatisfaction or criticism, right? Like think back to the last time everything just kind of like you failed it. Maybe you held it for a little while and then it went kaput. Maybe you had an exercise plan or this plan or whatever at work. And eventually, it just fizzled out. I want you to notice and think. And as you move forward from today, I want you to think, is what you're trying to do motivated by dissatisfaction and criticism of yourself? Because the problem is we choose goals that are not in alignment with our purpose. Okay. Instead, they come from fear and rejection. And this is really important. If you're doing a lot, I mean, I know we do this anyways, it's such a programming, but if you're doing a lot of I have tos and I shoulds and just guilting your way in, that approach to your goal sucks. It's not going to work for you. Not over time. I mean, really, can you name a time when criticizing yourself, motivating from disgust and shame had a positive long-term outcome? I doubt it, because you can only live off those fumes for so long before you totally fold. I have folded many times from that exact thing because many times this is intuitive intelligence is trying to come in and telling you this doesn't feel good. I don't like this. Your body doesn't like it. Your mind doesn't like it. Your heart doesn't like it. It all feels bad. And then, you make a mistake or you fall off the wagon or you relapse or you do something and you're like, the shame comes back on and you just, right? Like you are in this self-sabotage trap. So just to clarify it though, when you are coming from a place of a soulful goal, okay, you are riding the waves of the energy because the energy of it is pretty fierce. It may cause you to feel fear. I would love for it to actually cause a little bit of fear because that means it's a good goal, a stretch goal, right? Like you don't want something too easy. We want to feel like, whoa, this lights me up, excites me, but kind of scary, right? That's the kind of goal I'm talking about that's really good for you. But if it's a soul goal, you're in flow with it, okay? You're not forcing and pushing and trying to like force it when it feels exhausting and hard and I don't want to do it anymore, right? That shouldn't be there. So a soulful goal is steeped in excitement, exhilaration, and knowing. There can be some fear, but it lights you up. It is a secret sauce for healing self-sabotage when the sabotage is actually intuitive intelligence. Now, soulful goal works as well when you have boundary issues because it works in a totally different way and it helps you start to connect the two that your boundaries are in protection of your soul purpose. And so you have a different motivation for boundaries. It's very different. We'll get into that shift mindset. But when it comes to when you have goals that are internally intelligent, then soulful goals are the answer. I wanted to give you an example of a past client because this story is a really awesome story and a perfect example. I met Mary about 2 years ago, and this is not Mary in the picture, but I met Mary 2 years ago. She was a client of mine, so I don't usually, her name's not really actually even Mary. I don't share their info during the webinar, but she was an amazing individual. And she walked into my office and I was like, cool, she's a really cool lady. I like her, right? And then she started talking. And as it unfolded, the amount of pain that she was in regards to her self-loathing around her body, body image stuff, weight, the focus that she had so much of her body stuff. She wanted weight loss is what she really wanted. And she was really, really frustrated and stuck in this cycle of I'm powerless. It was a powerless cycle, and it was often flooded and fueled by shame, resentment, and just generally not feeling good enough as is, right? And so Mary also, as things unfolded, we got to learn, talking more and getting to know each other, that she was a dancer. She used to be a dancer. Like much of her life, she was a dancer. And we realized pretty quickly as we started talking, I'm like, you're really miserable. Like, why do you keep doing this to yourself? And, we got into it and we looked at, like, what are her goals and are they the right goals? And what was really cool is her open mind, because someone who's in this place where they keep feeling and they've been fixated on the problem and feeling the flood of shame with it, they can get really stuck on needing to solve that problem because that's the problem, because the shame is so much that they need to focus on that. But I'm asking you all to listen to this story and do the same, where you can say, wait a minute, I'm going to take a step back from whatever I'm focusing on that's not working. Okay. Because what Mary did was, I said something very simple. I said, can we take it off the table? And that was flooding her with some anxiety. It's like, what, I'm just going to live like this? Are you kidding me? Right. But when we took it off the table, I reintroduced a new question. I said, can we shift the focus to having fun? Can we shift the focus to having passion and excitement? Like, what stirs you up? What would excite the crap out of you? What would be fun, right? What would light you up every day and be like, I gotta go do this. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this, right? That's the energy. And, we really whittled back down to dance. And I didn't know how she was going to do, because dance for her was kind of like something that she had stopped doing years ago. And I think in some way, I think that she was so used to being in a body that was so fluid, and her movement with dance, that to be in a body that felt like it was sort of betraying her in a way, right? So I didn't know that she'd actually follow through with it as quickly as she did, but she left that session and she signed up for a dance class, local dance class in town, signed up for 2 classes, went to them, and I didn't see her for a few weeks, actually, like a couple months. And when Mary came back in, she was dancing on the regular. Within 6 months, Mary was in probably the best shape of her life. And it was astounding to her how good she was becoming and how much she had accomplished. And she was strong. But most importantly, Mary was doing the movement that her body, like on a core purpose level, like what she's here to do. Part of that is dance, it's performing, it's sharing, but also we learned it was teaching. And now Mary teaches dance classes. That's what she does. She's created her own space. I mean, she's doing amazing things and she's living in her purpose. That's a soul goal. Okay. That is a soul goal. So I want you to take a moment and ask yourself, do you have a soul goal? Is there something that would excite you, would light you up, or just say what would be like, most of us aren't having enough fun. Some of you might be, and like, kudos to you, but there are a lot of us that are very serious all day long. And we have just gotten into this rut. I think post-COVID, it's been going on even worse than it was before. But I want you to ask yourself, if I were to introduce a lot more fun and I were to kind of do something that felt like it was freeing to me, what would it be? And if you can sit with that inspiration, and really just put that out there, you could share it in the comments, but really just take a moment to take that in. And if you don't know, that's okay. But maybe journal about it tonight. Maybe think about it tomorrow. Maybe start bringing that in. Maybe that's important for you to start doing. The next one that we're going to talk about today is the reframe, become a truer version of yourself. Okay. Now, here's the problem. This is the truth. Okay. Your identity has likely, why you're self-sabotaging is your identity has not likely caught up with your intention. So you have this intention to become this thing, whatever the outcome is of that goal, and who you identify with being, right? That is not lined up. It's not aligned. And so it's causing you friction. So in the world of psychology, we call this sort of like a level of cognitive dissonance. Less technical terms is the underlying belief that you hold about who you are and your identity. Who am I? oppose who you are trying to become. Okay. And so you can have all these great ideas of who you want to be, what you're going to do, the actions you're going to take to get there. But the self-sabotage comes in because you have programming, you have beliefs that are against that, that don't align with that. Okay. And at the deepest level, we only follow through on actions that align with how we see ourselves, right? How you see yourself really matters. So if you still identify as a procrastinator, someone who always puts others first, or someone who never follows through, and honestly, that was mine. As a young girl growing up, I was a silent ADD person. I kind of had ADD, but nobody really noticed. I was so diligent and anxious, and I worked so hard to never be noticed, right? To make sure no one ever can tell. To act like I knew what everybody was talking about half the time I didn't, right? Because I couldn't keep up. And so I was going through all of this and I started having these lots of bouts of things I didn't follow through with. And so I started creating a really, really strong belief within me that many of us do, that I don't follow through with things. And that therefore, like, I can create these big goals, right? Like I have a podcast called Into the Work Therapy for Empaths and Seekers, which I forgot to mention. But it, as a year old, is doing fantastic. I love it. But a year ago when I started it, it was because of all the work that I've done. I would never have fallen through with that in the past because I didn't believe I could, and it would have given me a ton of anxiety to commit to anything like that because I would feel trapped, because I wouldn't have had the boundaries to be able to say, oh, this doesn't work, I have to stop. I would feel such internal pressure and failure and shame that I would avoid it, right? So your subconscious will sabotage any attempt to act differently, even if you consciously want to change. Okay. So there is a solution, and that is you need to shift your identity to match your goals, which is a big ask, I realize, but I don't care if it's a big ask. I don't want you to care if it's a big ask. You can do this. You absolutely can do this, and it's just going to take some time. Okay. In other words, you must believe you are becoming a truer version of yourself. Okay. Not something or somebody that you've never been before or never been capable of. I want you to, we're going to shift, we're going to like turn this upside down to how you're thinking about it. Okay. It's not that you have to try to become somebody that you're not. And then we have the imposter syndrome and we have all this other stuff. That's not what's happening. You would not want this goal. You would not want what you truly want. If it excites you, if it's a soul goal and it's like, oh, I really want that. I feel how much I want that. You would never want it if it wasn't who you were. You would be zero interest in it if it wasn't who you were. Okay. You really would. You wouldn't be drawn to it. It wouldn't feel right. None of it. So this is who you are. Okay. But it's the programming and the beliefs and everything else that has to be shifted so that the false self can get out of the way so your true self can step forward. And that is where the rest of this class is going to go. We're going to really whittle that down and really hammer that truth to you, that you have a true self and you have like kind of like the less true self, right? And we'll get into that. But instead of just saying like, I want to set better boundaries, you want to switch to I am statements. Okay. So for example, I am someone who honors my word to myself. And if you can acknowledge that you have been acting from a false self out of fear, you can believe your true self holds strong integrity. Okay. Honoring your word to yourself is a major part of that. It's the knowing and believing and acting as if. Okay. Now, boundaries really are a massive part of the solution here because self-boundaries, they're foundation of self-trust. In order to get to the true self, you got to trust the true self. Okay. So if you're constantly saying to yourself, I'll rest more, I'll start that project, I'll say no next time, but you don't follow through and you self-abandon frequently, you erode trust in yourself, obviously. Boundaries shift from the identity, right? Shift your identity from being someone who's like, I self-sacrifice, I have to self-sacrifice in order to be loved, to I self-love and therefore I'm loved, right? Many people break promises to themselves because they're too drained from saying yes to others. Shifting away from self-abandonment allows you to hold the energy for your goals so that true self can really be energized to move forward. And your integrity-based boundaries align with your highest self. And we don't really talk about that. You don't hear that. This is why I believe boundary work is soul work, okay? It's our job to rewire our bodies and minds to align with our higher self. And that is why it is soul work, because it is bringing us to our core truth of who we are, why we're here, and all that good stuff. And I want you to ask yourself, does your current identity and how you see yourself oppose who you're trying to be and what you're trying to do? Next, I want you to consider what statement you can repeat. So I'm going to give you an example here and tell you why this is a good example, because this example really kind of highlights a couple things that I think are important here. So first of all, I'm saying, instead of saying, I need to stop procrastinating, I want you to say, I am someone who takes action on what matters most. I believe that about myself. I know that about myself, right? I am someone who takes action on what matters most. And if I'm not acting, then there is probably a very good reason for it. And it's time I check in with myself to discover why. Okay. So in this example, I do two things. I demonstrate a solid positive belief about myself, right? I am demonstrates a positive, solid belief about yourself. I am someone who takes action on anything that matters most. So if I'm not acting, there's probably a good reason. And so that brings us to the next point, right? And that is that you're showing self-respect and that you have a good reason for acting out of alignment, right? You're looking for the intelligence. You're not saying, I suck. What's wrong with me? You're saying, I'm intelligent. There is intelligence here. And so that's when you can really start to shift, because you're also setting the belief about yourself and renaming it. But then you're also believing in yourself and saying, I don't do this stuff for no reason, right? Like I'm worthy of that kind of respect, self-respect with myself, that this is happening for a reason. Okay. Now, healing your protective programming can be it can be particularly challenging in a way, because this programming that we're going to address here tonight is stuff that you have been dealing with for a really long time. But here's the problem. Your unconscious program will not let you change. And because it doesn't want you to change, and it's scared shitless that you're going to change, it's trying to protect you. Okay, so that's, we're going to call it protective programming, which I'm sure you may have heard before. What is protective programming? It is a subconscious conditioning that keeps you stuck in self-sabotage behaviors because at some level your nervous system believes it's keeping you safe. Now, protective programming will override willpower, which I know is like a really big deal. We can like try to willpower the crap out of something, and eventually protective programming, it wins. It is like you cannot run a marathon on willpower only, right? And the protective programming comes in and sabotages things. You know, it manifests as self-sabotage. It contributes to unhealthy attachments and addictions. And I want you to think about that for a minute, okay? When you think about the things in your life that might be addictions, okay? So there might be things in your life that you aren't considering addictions. A lot of times when we think of addictions, we are thinking of substance abuse typically. But what I'm talking about is pretty much any bad behavior that you don't like, that you don't really want to do, that gives you a dopamine hit, right? Anything that's like, it can be people pleasing, approval seeking, getting validation, overworking, emotional eating. It can be all sorts of things in your life that give you that hit, that make you feel temporarily better, but you don't like it and you don't like yourself for it, right? Like it's painful in the end, right? So yes, your protective program contributes to all that. And so your protective parts once kept you safe, but safety is not the same as freedom. And I want to start like ringing that bell for you, okay? A lot of us are like, I need to make my body feel safe. I need my nervous system to feel safe. And I have been shifting away from some of that language because we don't live in a safe world, right? But and things are going to happen. I just have to believe that I'm resilient enough. I have to believe in myself to feel that I can handle what comes up. That's the underlying belief that we really need, is that I can handle whatever comes my way. And now your protector parts, which once kept you safe, it's not so much about safety as much as it about freedom. That's what you really want. Your protector part, your protective parts, they want to feel safe. But that core self, that core part of you of like your truth, who you are, your soul self, your higher self, whatever you want to call it, you, who you are, wants freedom. It's not even really looking for safety, it's looking for freedom. But it's all the other parts of you that are asking you to be safe. Okay. So we need to look at the solution, rewiring your protective parts and programming with boundaries. And so we want to look at this as a way of, how can you shift all this programming you've had for all these years simply by having some boundaries? Okay. Step one, I'm going to ask you to consider separating yourself from your protective parts. Okay. So I want you to consider your protective parts like the part of you that's people pleasing, the inner child, right? The child in you that wants to be taken care of and wants to be validated and wants everybody to tell them they're okay, right? And maybe there's a part of you that wants to be in control, right? There's a part of you that feels like I have to be in control all the time or I'm not okay. There's all these parts to you that have been managing the hard parts of life, okay? And I want you to recognize that the voice of self-sabotage, I can't do this, I'll fail, I have to be perfect. All of that is coming from a part. It's not coming from your true self of who you are, okay? And so I want you to ask, instead of being like, and meshing with it and believing it and like acting as if it's like the truth, I want you to consider that it's just trying to protect you. It's really just trying to do its job. That's all it feels like. Its job is to keep you safe. Okay. Now, what I want you to do next is I want you to set boundaries with your protective parts. Okay. Instead of letting your parts run the show all the time, I want you to start setting internal boundaries with them. Now, this comes with significant self awareness. And when you're on autopilot and you're busy, 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 and you're wrapped up in your addictions and you're bouncing off like a pinball in a machine, it's hard for you to show up and do this work. So I'm going to ask you, maybe just this week, give it a shot, where you start really showing up and being present for the parts that start freaking out, right? The part of you that's like, I can't do that thing at work or your business or, wherever that is going to be bigger than what I'm used to, right? What will be expected of me? It's going to go out of it's going to fly out of my control. I can't do that. It's going to be scary. That is a part. And you want to go, oh, I see you, part. I see you, right? I want you to start stepping into your leadership role and become the inner parent, become who you need to be, which is your true core self. That is your truth, right? Everything else has been developed along the way of everybody's hard life, right? The hard parts of life, I should say. So your mantras, though, can be, my fears have a back seat, but they don't get to drive, right? Your fears have a back seat, but they do not get to drive. They don't get to be in control. They have been driving. And if you have self-sabotage in your life, it's been driving. And so it is your job to create personal power in the core self. And if you haven't done that, right, which I want to say isn't perfect. It's not about perfection. And this can take years, right? I catch myself all the time still doing this. But if you can get to a point where you can say, oh, okay, I can feel that part of me getting lit up. I can feel that part of me that likes to be, validated. I can feel it spinning. I need to go ask 5 people what they think instead of sitting with myself and coming up with it. Then I have to step in and say, woof, I see you, part. I see you, anxiety. I see you, child, or whatever part, or just call it, your anxiety, right? I see you. I feel you, but I'm going to take care of you. Let me step in. I am going to go sit and get quiet and get into my core self and decide what's right here. And learning to do that takes some time, but it is a big deal. Okay. It's a big deal. Step three, I want you to start seeing that when you set boundaries with yourself, it's coming from a place of motivation for motivating, protecting your true self. So you're not trying to protect the parts when you set boundaries with other people, because it doesn't work, because setting boundaries with other people feels unsafe. And we have to make this really big shift, okay, that feeds your true self and the personal power that she is craving. She wants it, right? You have to make a shift from point A to point B. And point A is that deep down inside for a very long time, you have the programming that tells you that setting boundaries with other people, saying no, expressing what your needs, want, and desires, and that are, especially if they are opposite to what that person wants from you, is somehow you abandoning them in the relationship, being selfish, disappointing them. That's the worst, guilt, right? We hate that. That you are somehow abandoning them, you're leaving the relationship, you're becoming an unsafe person. We don't want that. We want to be safe, especially if you're empathic and sensitive. And so we go from this point of feeling that boundaries are scary and they hurt people, and I don't want to do that. It's so uncomfortable. And we have to shift to an entirely, when I talk about flipping this upside down, an entirely different programming that you are to create. And that is point B, that your boundaries are wholeheartedly about being seen, being known, mattering as much as somebody else in your relationships. It is about authenticity and actually true friendships, true relationships, true partnerships. Even in work and business, this is where people soar, is when people are able to communicate in such a way with respect. And when we don't show our boundaries, when we don't speak our truth, people don't really get to know us. Okay. When people don't get to know you and they just get the you that you put out to them that makes them feel better, right? Because as empaths, we tend to regulate our own nervous system by making sure everybody in the environment is happy all the time. And if that's what you're doing, what ends up happening is that not only have you self-abandoned yourself, but you've given them nothing to hold on to, right? You've given them not, they don't know you. They can't be in a real relationship with somebody who they don't really know, right? Boundaries are about letting other people know you, about your wants, what works for you and what doesn't work for you. It's actually quite simple. It's all the other stuff we created from the parts that are the problem. So the soulful boundary formula are separate yourself from people-pleasing parts. So I'm giving the people-pleasing as an example. And that is, you want to separate your true self from the people-pleasing part. Okay. And you say, I see you, people pleaser. I feel you. You're coming out right now. I can feel you. You're trying to keep me safe, but making sure everybody likes me. Okay. So you call them out on it. And then you say, but I don't need to earn love through exhaustion. That's not who I am. Not in my core, not in my truth. And I am driving the bus. I'm in charge here. So let me take over. And then you set an intentional internal boundary with the people pleaser part. Look at, I'm no longer going to say yes at the cost of my well-being. I won't do it. And it's safe for me to prioritize my needs first. And I want to be free to do so. Okay. And then you're out in the world setting boundaries with others, like just throwing in some statements like, I'd love to help, but I can't commit to that right now. You have certain lingo that you use that just slips out with ease because it's just like how you speak, right? I need some time for myself this weekend. I'm sorry, but can we connect next week? No one's going to be really hurt by that, And if they are, then they were people who were being served by you not having boundaries, right? When people have a negative response to you having a boundary, it probably was serving them for you not to have a boundary. And I'm not saying these are bad people or relationships you have to discard. There might need some reconditioning and some relearning happening in the relationship, but they might need to change the place they have. But regardless, this is the most important work for you and your core self and your soul self. And so that has to get done. And regulating your nervous system, I did mention here The Biology of Belief, which is by Bruce Lipton, is a really jam-packed book of lots of really cool information, but 95% of our behaviors are driven by the subconscious programming, most of which is stored in the body. And by clearing energetic blocks, we work with the body, we rewire old patterns and regulate your nervous system. Regulating your nervous system plays an important role in this. Okay. And so I'm bringing this up because, EFT, breath work, shadow work, visualizations, meditations, but energy-based healings are so important to releasing emotional blocks. We have to get into the somatic parts of it. Just working with the mind isn't actually the answer. We know that in psychology now. We know we have to do it all. We have to work with everything. And so that's what brings us to the next part, which is clearing your energy body. The problem being that your emotional energy is blocking you from holding personal power. Emotional energy lives in your body. Okay. And it's at the core of most all dis-ease, we call, right? So when I'm doing energy healing and someone's got a physical symptom, a condition of some sort, I am very clear in knowing that there are emotional contents in the body that are contributing to the issue. Now, we are, just so you know, in case you're totally new to energy, that we are made of energy. Another term is used as bioelectricity, and that this energy is at the center of every cell. The energy at the center of every cell is what makes your heart pump and your blood move, and everything that's happening in your body that makes you solid, that makes you healthy, is through energy. And now your energy extends past the body and around you as a field, just in case you didn't know that. Now, why are we talking about energy? Because your energy is so vital to your well-being. It plays a role in how you process emotions, whether those emotions, get stuck, move through. And honestly, we can't possibly process all of the emotions we feel in a lifetime. I don't know that I've ever met somebody that doesn't have emotion in the body, right? It just is what it is, right? And so this is part of unclogging the system is by clearing out some of this stuff and how you think and what you attract and your ability to change and your vitality and life force energy is all very important and very much involved. Because the problem is that your emotional energy is blocking you from holding personal power, and personal power is key. And so the solution is to ground, clear, and gather and protect. Okay. And so the grounding is getting all your energy to get down to your feet. That's just like very, very basic. We're just getting all of your energy down to your feet to the ground. Most of us are up here. So gathering is when we bring in other information. Like I like to bring in gathering sometimes, like, you're bringing in what emotions am I feeling right now? Do I need to experience that in order to release it? Just collecting information about the process of what's happening in the body, speaking to it, feeling it, trying to learn from it, gathering information, intuition. Gathering intuition, can be just by sitting and being with yourself and bringing up this kind of energetic balancing allows you to open up, and you might start to gather information about, just sort of hits in that you feel and sense and know that there are things you need to hear or feel. And then clearing out your body and releasing things and then adding a protection at the end. This is something that I do every day, multiple times a day, and it's definitely something that you can do also multiple times a day. Um, and a lot of times we do that just by saying, I'm doing something, some activity that says I'm clearing out what doesn't belong to me. I release all that doesn't belong to me. I release all that doesn't serve my highest good. And I'm getting all my energy to the ground. I can imagine the ground kind of holding you, that gravity is pulling you. Anything like that is good. I'm going to walk you through a special activation tonight, okay? And this activation is going to be more in line of what we talked about tonight. There'll be some gathering and grounding and some clearing and some protecting, but it's a little bit more advanced. But I want you to experience a brief activation. And I know that I have to keep it brief because of the timing of our time together here. Normally we would do something more in depth, but I want you to have an opportunity to experience it. So what I'm going to ask you to do right now is I'm going to ask you at this point to just go ahead and close your eyes. I know some of you might feel a little uncomfortable with that, but just go ahead and take a nice deep breath. I want you to breathe in for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hold it. And then I want you to go ahead and release it for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I'm going to ask you next to go ahead and sit with the sensation for just a moment. I want you to notice any movement in the body as you breathe in and out. Very simple. Just breathing in and breathing out. And just noticing any movement or sensations in the body. And next, I'm going to actually ask you to imagine that when you've been stressed, when you've been activated in some way, that your energy has dispersed around you. So, what should be in your body is outside your body. This can make us feel scrambled, brain fog. It can make us feel chaotic, like we're everywhere. And so, I'm going to ask you to imagine that all these shiny little particles of you that belong to you, belong within you, are outside you. And now I'm going to ask you to go ahead and breathe those parts back in. And imagine they're like little puzzle pieces that have a home, that know exactly where to go. And you're just breathing it in a couple times. Just keep breathing it all in until you feel that it completely settles and that all the parts of you are back in. And this is like medicine for you. Okay. This is medicine. Your cells start to percolate, start to wake up, right? The muscles start to wake up. Your blood starts flowing a little quicker. Your heart is feeling the energy coming in, that heart space. And then I want you to next imagine that this beautiful light, now that you're all back in the body, you're vibrating higher, and this beautiful light starts making its way around you. I want you to imagine that it's almost enveloping you, okay? And this light that's enveloping you is now also pouring in simultaneously through the top of your head. Breathe it in. Okay, this light also is medicine. This light is nourishing to every cell in your body. It is seeking with intelligence exactly where it needs to go to heal something. This light is just the highest level of intelligence. So I want you to welcome it, embrace it, experience it, and just feel what it feels like. If any sensations at all start to occur for you as you are literally filling with light from the top of your head down to the bottom of your feet, where you're surrounded by light. The exchange of osmosis, that light is coming in and going out at the same time. It's all one. And now I want you to imagine and just take this last minute here to either visualize. If you have a hard time with that, you can sort of just kind of allow yourself to know that all around you are the parts that have been trying to protect you. You've got a child part, you've got a people pleaser part, you've got an adult part that's trying to control everything. You've got all the parts of you that have helped you get through life up until now in a very brilliant way. These parts have worked hard for you. I want you to just fill up with your heart as you look at the parts, and I want you to hold compassion for them. I want you to see them in their glory for how incredibly, beautifully helpful they have been working so hard to be. They just love you. They want to protect you. They feel like it's their life duty. It's why they're here. It's what being part of you means. It means protecting you. But I also want you to notice that these parts of you that are around you are starting to bask in this light that's making them wake up and recognize this sensation of relief. Okay, every part of you is basking in the light and saying, oh my gosh, I can let go. Because as all your parts start to deactivate, start to release and be at ease, and they're noticing that their leader is here. Because simultaneously, while this is happening, you have a pole of light that has organized itself in your center. And that light is running up from the very ground that you're standing or sitting or where your feet touch. That light is coming straight up and down right through your center, and we'll call it your life force energy line. And this is you. This is your truest version of you. This is your self. This is your core self. And every part of you gets to relax because you're here. Your core self is in charge. They don't have to do the people pleasing. They don't have to be in control. They don't have to. They can just be free. Everybody can just be free because all that you want in your soul self is to be free to become who you're here to become, to grow how you're meant to grow. And now that you're in charge, your inner leader, right? This personal power that is swirling within you, the center line of energy is in charge. And I want you just to take this last moment to thank all your parts, to share compassion with them, to let them know that you love them. And you're so grateful they got you through being a teenager. They got you through your young adulthood. They got you through all these years of all the things that have gone on. They've been working hard. And I want you to tell them they don't have to anymore. And I want you to own and take responsibility that it's time for me to show up in a new way, in my truest form, and apologize maybe for any part you might have played in letting that get out of control. And you just fill up your heart with so much gratitude that you're having this awakening, this knowing. And just take a last moment. And then I want you to go ahead and just surround yourself in this beautiful bubble. And all your parts are inside your bubble, but they're just glowing and they're smiling and they're wonderful and they're just at ease. And your life force energy is running strong, but there's nobody else's energy in this bubble. It's only you. It's only yours. Nothing else interferes with the bubble. Nothing can. It's a protective shield. And take 30 more seconds to be in this space. And just feel what it feels like to be in a protected space of all your own energy, your desires, your wants, right? Everything that you really get excited about coming down here for. Wanting is not greed, it's growth. And you're letting yourself really breathe that in. That's what it's about. I'm here to grow. So go ahead and just take that last second and go ahead and open your eyes when you're done so we can finish up here. So that is sort of like an activation because it activates your something within you that causes a shift to happen. And you might notice later today you feel a little different, or maybe you're at work tomorrow and you're facing something and you're like, you know what, I got this. My core self has it. I don't need to do all the things I usually do. And so I want you just to notice that, okay? All right. And so can you imagine when you set a soulful goal, when you heal your old limiting beliefs and shift your identity to match your goals, right? When you heal your protective programming through strengthening your core self, right? You're strengthening your boundaries that protect your core self. Because it really, everything we're talking about here at the bottom is having boundaries to protect this. This is what it's all about, your true self, who's here to become and grow. That's what you're protecting when you say no, right? And boundaries become less about saying no and more about saying yes, right? All about your yes. And this core center line that we just worked on is all about your yes. That light within you is about your yes. So when you learn to manage your energy and clear your emotional blocks, can you see or can you imagine how different things could be for you? And a common mistake we make when we first get started, I just want to say it to you, is going alone. Okay. So if you're going to, from this point, kind of move forward and kind of do the solo path, I want you to find somebody, find a good therapist, find somebody that creates space for you, holds you accountable, but also sees your light. Somebody that really kind of is invested in you becoming, that best version without getting too stuck in all the problems. I want you to really find a good support system. Find an experienced energy healer too, because again, we have to move the somatic stuff. We need to move the energy. Okay, that's really important. We need to move the body in different ways. I want you to learn some new meditation techniques or visualizations because that was really really important. And you can see just doing that visualization with you, it starts to make you feel different because our brains don't know the difference between something that's, false or real, right? And so it's acting accordingly. Now find a tribe. Oh, I did say EFT is actually really great. So if you find someone who does some EFT, it's a fantastic, another fantastic route to some of the somatic stuff. And find a tribe that's also on a healing journey because honestly, doing this alone, you're just going to get caught up in the same old when you're around everybody who's doing the same old, right? And you want to have these conversations and go for it. Just leave this and go talk to like the people who don't normally think this way or whatever and have these conversations, and you're going to find some people are like kind of like, oh, that's nice. Like they don't know how to respond to it, right? You want people that know how to respond to it. Or I want to welcome you to entrust me on your healing adventure. So, would you like me to virtually kind of hold your hand through this entire process of healing the old wounds and building stronger boundaries so that you can go for your goals? And so, I wanted to introduce to you the Modern Empaths Boundary Mastery Program. And it has all these, you can see all these activations. It has a journal for tracking your goals, also have some workbook with tons of PDFs and things to kind of help you through. The Modern Empaths Boundary Mastery is the only online course and group coaching program of its kind that will teach you how to create stronger boundaries, crush your soulful goals by incorporating not only my therapeutic techniques, but also energy medicine and activations and visualizations to release emotional blocks and to learn and manage your energy to become a higher vibrational match for more joy and for more happiness, which is this is all about that, right? So remember what brought you here. If you're in the beginning stages, if you're curious and you just don't know, are you motivated and you just like you have a very clear plan, or if you're frustrated but determined, I want to assure you that I've created this experience to meet all of your needs. And whatever you were at in this process, in fact, I truly believe you're right on time. You really are right on time wherever you're at, or you're really meant to be here now. And so I invite you to trust that. I have been right where you are. I have been whatever you think, oh, Michelle is so, whatever, evolved and she's a therapist and so different. She doesn't get it. I have literally been such an incredible people pleaser that, I had other people, even when I was in college, I had friends that were ordering dinners for me because they would be frustrated with me because I wouldn't ask for what I wanted because it made me really uncomfortable. I really struggled using my voice. I have grown tremendously through this work. So I have a formula that I want to help you with to change what for what you want in your life. And you will also have access to this course for the life of this course. So as long as this course exists, you will have access to it. And also, every time I revamp it and go through and change it, you will get all the updates. You will never be left out. So let me just tell you really quick what it looks like inside the course. First, we're going to set your soulful goal. And that is, we've kind of already talked about that, right? But that soulful goal is how we kick it off. And so I chose the soulful goal for, you know, a couple of reasons. One, I want to help you accomplish something that really excites me because I get really, when you get to know me, if you don't know me already, I'm somebody who just gets super jazzed when other people expand in their lives. Like it's kind of like my calling, it's my thing. And also, it's going to trigger the crap out of you. Okay. So, like, it's going to trigger you, and you are going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe I couldn't set the boundary. I couldn't do the thing. And that's where I want you. I want you getting tripped up because in the beginning of the stages, we're going through a lot of stuff that's hard. And it's important to really kind of go there. You are way more powerful than you think is our second module here. And this module, we're really stepping into clarifying the habits that you'll change, the mindset required, and the outcomes you're going to celebrate. And we're really going to talk about your personal power and when you hold on to it, when you give it away. And that's the most important part of this is that when you're in this module, we're really looking at, when are you really struggling to stay in your body, stay in your power and be able to vocalize that, right? And I have a grounded to the core of the earth meditation that is quick. It's like a 10 minutes quick, and it's something you can do throughout the program, but it's going to help you with this particular module. And then we have your addictions and self-abandonment habits. So as you can see in the beginning, it's kind of front loaded on some heavy stuff because we really need to get to the bottom of everything. You need to see what you're doing. You need to understand the relationship with you're having with yourself currently so that we can free you up and heal some of this stuff and understand it more so that you can actually have a lot of self-awareness where you are having either avoidance or autopilot, right? And we have your limiting beliefs, deciphering between facts and fiction. And this is really kind of getting us to the end of this module where we learn how to tell the difference between, your truth and your false limiting beliefs. Because a lot of the times we believe that the false limiting beliefs are actually our truth. We think that's true because we've held that belief for so long. But then in the program, you really learn, oh, okay, so a belief is a practice thought, something you thought over and over and over and over again, right? So why can't we change that and have another thought over and over and over again? But we have to recognize what our truths are, who that, again, I already told you that true self part is so important. And then we get to phase two, the boundaries with other people. This is your soul work in relationships. And by the way, one thing I didn't mention is that at the end of every phase, which is 3 phases of the program, at the end of every phase, we are going to do a group healing, a group energy healing. And so we're going to shake up all this hard stuff. And then at the end of that phase, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to help to release all this stuff that's getting jammed up and release whatever we can as a group. And that helps you kind of move forward into the next phase. So understanding your boundary type, and that is an important one because it also helps you recognize when and where you need to set boundaries. Like, who am I showing up with boundaries right now? What do my boundaries kind of look like right now? And like, you know, how do I know when to set a boundary? Like, when am I getting triggered? We have something called the hula hoop experiment that is a good one visually for you. And then module 6, we have the soul work in relationships. And we do in this stage talk about codependency habits and unhealthy attachments that get really triggered in our relationship. And we can learn to show up for them, heal them, right? And start to feel different in them. And then last, or number 7, we have anatomy of a good boundary. This is when we dive into what to say and do while setting a boundary. This gets into the logistics of it. Like, what are you going to say when this happens? And what are you going to say when that happens? And then we get into 8, which is soul shadow work in relationships. And this is when we just start to get into embracing all our parts, and which is really important as we move forward. And then we get into phase 3. And this is a big shift, okay? So up until this point, we did the inward stuff, then we did the outward stuff in our relationships, and now we're shifting into protecting our energy and raising our vibration and our vibrational health, okay? And in this case, when we do this, we are going to do the whole ground, gather, clear, protect, all of that stuff, but you're going to navigate your energy boundaries. And how are they at work? How are they in your relationships? What can you do to feel better in your body? What can you do to feel better every day? Retraining your thoughts for higher vibration is one of my favorites. This is the discipline of being happy, the choice that we need to make, that we have around being happy. We have a turn down the volume of your thoughts meditation at this point. It's a bit of an activation, but it's a meditation, really. It kind of gets into you having control and having the sensation of really learning how to turn your thoughts up and down so that you can actually do that for intuition and higher vibration. And you're kind of letting in intuition while you're doing that work. And then the next one is living as if, becoming what you want right now. Also another favorite of mine. This is where we really re-examine your blocks and discover where your goal can take you next as we become the goal. And I have a DNA activation for this particular one that's really powerful. Typically makes everybody cry, but that DNA activation can, after you've been doing the work, really, everything has just been building, right? We kind of clear out the sadness in the beginning and the hard stuff, and then we shift into the relationships and we have to face hard stuff. But it's all good because then we get to this point and we're just capping the program off with a high, okay? With celebrating our wins, which is next, our integration week, where we're scripting our roadmap ahead and really figuring out, okay, what's next for me? Do I still have resistance that I need to address? What is left? And how do I do that on my own moving forward? So that in itself is the boundary mastery, and that includes 12 weeks of our inner circle group coaching. So every Monday at noon, some people are even working and they're taking it as a lunch break. Every Monday at noon, we're going to be meeting for 12 weeks. There's 12 dripped weekly course modules, as I've just mentioned, to take you deeper. We have a mastery workbook. We have the Soulful Gold Journal, 7 transformational meditations and activations, 3 group healing events, and the community Facebook where you can find your soul sisters, right? Where we can connect throughout the week, cheer each other on, get honest with our stuff, what's going on, and have a tribe. So I'm doing that price thing that everybody does. I was like, I'm not doing that price thing. But actually, if you know me, this is quite honest. Okay. So this is what my peers are doing on a very honest level, and actually it could be much higher. So 12 weeks of weekly group coaching on its own tends to be at least $997. 12 weeks of a course can be, $697, $797. I did make this very doable, so that was part of my goal, but still its price range is pretty normal. And then you can just make your way down, right? And you'll see that it all equals out to $2,245. And so what I have done, because I really do want to make this affordable, and it's my first time out with this particular program, I wanted to make sure I made it as affordable as possible. So the price of what it costs is $797. And I break it down a little bit more. It can be even more affordable for those people that would prefer to pay in installments. So at $797, you could just get over it and just pay it and be done. Or we have the 4 installments for $222. If you make the decision of investing in yourself tonight, then you have the option of getting another $100 off if you pay in full. So you just need to enter the code boundaries and you'll get $100 off. That's $797. That is for 12 weeks of this deep work where we connect and we really do all this awesome stuff. So if you are interested in doing it and you know that you're a yes, then I want to just reward you with this and get going and sign up. So there you go. This is where you're going to go to sign up. It's michellepoverman.com boundaries and michellepoverman.com boundaries. And then this is where you're going to get to. This is my sales page. And you're going to look at it. You're going to go right to that button and you're going to say, add me at accountability, sign me up. And then it's going to take you to the checkout page. And you will see this checkout page has $797, or you can check off $222. And then you would pay $222 tonight, and then you would pay 3 more months of $222. All right. And then you'll see here that you have a coupon code. And so you can enter in boundaries there, and then you could save the $100. Once you do that, you'll look out for a confirmation email from me. Michelle@sageandstone.org is my email. So that's what you will see. And you want to make sure that you make it a safe email for yourself so you can get it. The confirmation email will provide you with everything you need. It'll tell you the course is officially delivered to you on Monday, 3/25. You have a full week of that first module to just kind of meld in it, get to know it, go through it. It's all about your soulful goal. Our first official online coaching meeting is Monday, the 7th, 1 week later at 12 noon. Don't forget your bonus. And of course, I didn't put the link in, but don't forget your bonus gift for staying with me tonight. Okay. You've got the link, which is going to be michellepoverman.com, just like everywhere else. It's just michellepoverman.com/manifest. michellepoverman.com/manifest. And just so you know, there's zero risk. You have a 14-day money back guarantee. You have 14 days to decide whether or not this program works for you. Okay. So I'm going to bring up a couple questions that have come up. I have already about 6 people that have signed up for the group. I have 6 people that have signed up for the group before I've actually put it out. And I got a couple questions from them. So I'm just going to share it with you. And then you might be feeling the same way. So this really sounds incredible, Michelle, but do I really have the time to commit to this right now? Because I'm really freaking busy. What do you think? Do you think this is going to be too much for me? And so I want to say, oops. So I want to say that I kept you in mind. So when I did this program, I certainly decided I need to make sure it's doable, okay? Because as you can already tell, I can talk about this stuff all day, and I could go on and teach you all kinds of things, but I have to make this efficient as possible so that you feel like you are getting what you need at the time that you have. So I did my best to try to go as close to 30 minutes per module as possible. The first one is a little bit longer because I'm kicking off a lot of stuff in the beginning. You do have a full week to go through it all. From a you're going to get it on Monday, and you don't have to show up and have the information, sink in and gone through it until the following Monday. Okay. But I totally get it. Life is busy and I got you. Okay. So I listened and I made it as manageable as possible. Now it's 30 minutes for the modules. I want you to imagine that you're going to probably looking at another 30 minutes for, I mean, not every week, but some weeks are going to be an additional 30 minutes for PDFs, for filling out, your goal journal, or doing things that are keeping you on track or helping you go deeper. Those activations, for instance, some of them are a little bit longer, than, 10 minutes. They're more like 20. So it really depends on the week, but I've tried to make it so that we're looking at you committing to an hour a week typically, and then our meetings, which are an hour a week. Okay. And then Michelle, I've been like this my whole life. Like, do you really think I can change? Because I don't know I've tried things. I'm just not sure that this is investment is going to be worth it because I don't know if I can change. And I honestly, I mean, really, I have been a mental health therapist for 20 years, and I couldn't do what I do and stay doing it if I didn't think people were absolutely 100% like a hell yes, you can change. Okay, there's no script to say this is when you'll change and this is how long it will take. I mean, honestly, if we were selling something else here or we were talking about something else here, then it might be more clear. But as far as this goes, of course this is possible for you. And I actually guarantee there are going to be things that you're going to be very different when you finish this. You're going to feel different. You're going to be thinking differently. You're going to be awoken to things differently. For some of you, this might be the middle part or the end of your journey. And for some of you, it's just the beginning. But either way, you absolutely can change. And then you also might be thinking, and this has come up actually a few times, more than once, I'm not sure I know what my soulful goal will be. And I'm so indecisive and I feel a lot of pressure already. Some people are starting to feel anxious that they're not going to have their soulful goal pinned down. And our first week, we're all going to chime in and just kind of like share our soulful goal. And that's okay. Okay. So, what I want you to acknowledge is that there is a part of you that's coming forward right now. If you're feeling this way, or if you start to think, yeah, that would be me. And that part is wrapped up in perfectionism and getting it right, right? Whatever it is that's fueling that anxiety, that you might disappoint, or whatever that is just a part. Okay. It's just a part. You have full authority here on how this looks for you. Now, of course, I recommend you give your all because that's how much you're going to get out of it. But if you cannot figure that out, we're just going to choose something. Let's just choose anything. And then along the way, you're going to figure out, yeah, this doesn't work. And you might choose something else. And you'll get to your soulful goal, right? And it can be fluid, is my point. And that for you might be a really important lesson to learn. It doesn't have to be rigid. You don't have to be perfect. It could be like a fluid, kind of flowy thing. Like you try this, you try that, and all of a sudden you're like, boom. So you are looking at michellepoverman.com boundaries as a place to go to sign up for this class and join me because it's going to be amazing. And I can't wait to get started and I'm looking forward to joining. All right. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and shoot me an email or you can go ahead and put them in and I will get back to you if you are looking. And again, that's michellepoverman.com boundaries, but that I have written wrong. So sorry about that. I did this late. So I have the one installment at $797, the four installments at $222, just to remind you, that's what it's going to look like when you get there. And then I am also offering that $100 off for a kind of a fast action on your part. Okay. So, thank you very much for hanging in there. I'm so appreciative of you listening in, and I wish you the best. And I'll end us here. Okay, thanks so much.